Hello! I love the show Adventure Time, and Marceline is my favorite character. So, I thought I'd try making an amigurumi of her. Starting with the legs, I made her shoes gray on the top and white on the bottom. So I'm starting with the white yarn, just crocheting the sole. And then I'm changing to a light gray to crochet the top of the shoe. Once the shoe is finished, place a little bit of stuffing in it because it'll be really hard to stuff it later. From there, I'm changing to the light blue to start with the pants. At this point, I inserted a piece of jewelry wire that was about 6 inches long. I did this because I wanted the legs to be kind of bendy, and previously I had tried inserting the wire after making the leg and stuffing it, and that didn't work well at all. So this time I inserted the wire and stuffed the leg as I was making it, which worked a lot better. To make the cuff of the pants, I inserted the crochet hook into the space between the shoe and the pants and just did a row of single crochets all around the ankle. After crocheting the entire second leg, instead of fastening off like with the first leg, I did a chain of 8, and then making sure that both legs were facing forward, I joined them together with one single crochet and then began single crocheting all around the chain and the legs, doing some increases. When you get to the chain, make your single crochets in the front loop of the stitch. After the pants, I changed to a teal color for the tummy area. Now to do a decrease, when you're only crocheting in the back loops, you have to do this little turning maneuver, and instead of starting with the next stitch over from your last stitch, you have to go 2 stitches ahead and then come back for that middle stitch. I didn't explain that very well. It doesn't show up well in the video, so I have a link in the description with a YouTube video where I learned this technique. So after the tummy area was done, I changed to a dark gray to make the shirt. Now, the first row here, I'm not doing back loops only. I'm going under both loops. And then after I finish this first row of gray, that second row is going to be the back loops only. Once I got to the top of the shirt, I made a little insert where there was some teal so that it would look like Marceline's shirt has a little bit of a neckline to it. There's also some teal patches kind of further down on the shirt because I thought I would try to make some little armhole areas where her skin would show through beneath the shirt, but it didn't really work out. So in the pattern, I didn't put any notation for those change of colors. It could just be all gray, and you'll just make a note to sew the arms between rows 20 to 23 on either side of the body. After the shirt was finished, I got started on the neck. And after the neck was the head. At this point, I started to place the eyes, and I would only realize later that this placement was way too high, so that won't be the final placement. Here's another piece of wire that I used to try to stabilize the head and the neck since it was so floppy. I made a sort of light bulb shape so that there would be some heft to the part that was in the head, and then I just did a couple of layers of wire that would go down into the neck region and just twisted it all together so that it would stay in one piece, and so that all of those pointy edges were pushed inward so that they wouldn't come bursting out of the seams and the stitches. After placing the wire and stuffing the head, I just went ahead and finished up the decreases and closed everything up. So here I went back to the front loops that I had left behind, and starting with the pants, I'm doing one row of single crochets around. For the armholes, I had tried to do some front loop, back loop situations and they didn't really work out, so in the end I just improvised. And here I'm making the arms, starting with the magic ring and 6 single crochets. Next I did 2 single crochets and an increase to get a total of 8, and then did a bunch of single crochets around to get the length of the arm. And here I'm doing the same thing that I did with the leg, putting the wire in and stuffing as I go so that it'll be nice and flexible. At the end, I realized 6 inches of wire was a bit too long for the arms, even though it worked fine for the legs. So I just estimated where would be a good spot and snipped off the excess. And then I sewed it on. I also made a couple of ears and attached those as well. Next, I attached the hair. I put a link in the description to the video that shows how to make the hair. It's from Needlenoodles, and I bought her book Creepy Cute Crochet, which is how I got introduced to that technique. To attach the hair, I'm just following what I would think of as a normal hairline, and what I realized after I attached all of the hair was that the length that I used was too short. She had more of a layered look than a straight bob haircut like she had in the pictures, so I had to do a little bit of strategic cutting. But I would say in general, make sure that the length that you're using is shoulder length instead of doing... I think what happened was that I measured from the base of her neck to her shoulders and thought that's a good length, not considering that the fact that the distance from the crown of her head to her shoulders would be way longer than the distance from the base of her head to her shoulders. And that's why it looked layered. So in general, you want to measure the distance between the crown of the head and the shoulders, and then that should be your standard length that you would use. This was how she looked when all her hair was sewn on. For cutting the hair, I didn't really know what to do, so I just started hacking away until I got a shoulder length haircut. Once I was done with the back, I began with the front, and I did a little bit of sideways cutting to give her that side bang look. I've never cut hair before, or at least not of this texture. Next, I embroidered her mouth. And after the mouth came the eyebrows. And last but certainly not least, a belly button.